Welcome to Earth is Waking Up. I'm your host, Jeremy Anderson, and today our guest is Koichi Naruishi. Now, Koichi is passionate about setting people free from limiting patterns and beliefs. At an early age, he had health challenges. His mom, with the guidance of a chiropractor, created major shifts in lifestyle for the whole family to overcome young Koichi's health problems. Years later, with this new lifestyle served as a foundation for further growth into the realms of nutrition, alignment, mindset, spiritual, and energy work. With a rounded background in healing, nutrition, and consciousness, Koichi has transformed the lives of his clients and continues to grow, train, and educate himself to continual service at deeper levels. Welcome to the show, Koichi.
Thank you, Jeremy. Glad to be on.
Yeah, glad to have you. I'm glad to know you. So for the listeners, Koichi and I have gotten to know each other for a while, working together on some stuff, and we even have had some surfing experiences.
Yeah!
So, yeah, and thank goodness he was the one I was surfing with. So I'm still deeply grateful for that.
That was fun. That was fun.
Yeah. So born and raised in, was it Hawaii?
No, I was born and raised in LA of all places.
LA.
Yeah.
But your dad was from Hawaii or Japan?
Japan. My dad's family was from Japan, and my mom's mom was directly from Japan. So, but the Hawaiian element, I actually worked in Hawaii a lot, and I grew up with a lot of Japanese Americans that were transplanted from Hawaii. So that's been in the culture and my background for ever since I was born. So yeah, I grew up with a lot of Japanese Hawaiians.
I'm just remembering stories of the grumpy elders and teaching you lessons at a young age.
Oh yeah. There are a lot of. I had one particular father figure who was from Hawaii, and he was very old school, meaning like he was very harsh, right? Like looking out, like you'd think that the things I was saying were mean or whatever. And then, but he really took me in and, introduced me to martial arts, to Aikido, and really like taught me, like he brought me in when he was taking apart an engine, and he was like an educator. He was like someone very supportive in and like learning and growth and having fun too. He took me and his son fishing and introduced, like I said, Aikido, and I'd go with him and his son to practice, and yeah, it was really amazing. Yeah.
Was he the one into the Zen training?
No, that's a different martial arts. That happened in college. I did Aikido, I did Shotokan karate, which is a very harsh way to do it, and then I saw in like a curriculum for the REMAX Center, which is like a recreation center at UCSD, something that was called Shorinji Kempo, and I'm like, what the heck is that? And I started reading it, and it said it combined both, like like the blocks and kicks from karate, and also kind of like how to get out of holds and grappling, like in Aikido. And then the third thing that really hit me was meditation. I was like, I think I need that. For some reason, intuitively, I felt like I need that in my life.
Yeah.
And again, my teacher was old school, and he reminded me of the father figure I had that was from Hawaii, and very gruff. He'd make fun of my hair. I'd wear tie-dyes because that shirt's too loud. Wear something plain, and I'm like, who is this guy, and I was like, wow. But he actually imparted some wisdom from some philosophy from this branch of Zen Buddhism called Kongo Zen. And one of the seeds he planted was this concept of strength and love as one. And in Japanese, it's called Riki Ai Funi. And strength and love is one. And it blew me away what he said. Back in the day, like maybe 20 years ago, on our uniforms, it'd be a swastika, right? And growing up, what a swastika is, right? It represents Nazism and like a lot of atrocities, etc. However, that's half the picture, because in this tradition, you would have a swastika going one way and then a swastika going the other way. And it has nothing to do with Nazis or that sort of thing. In the ancient traditions, the one way that swastika goes, the one that the Nazis use, has to do with strength. And then at these Buddhist temples, you'll see a swastika going the other way, and that's love, right? And so the whole concept that he taught me was that strength in itself becomes violence, and then love by itself becomes just a sentiment. And so those two need to coexist together to make something beautiful, strong, loving. For example, like the Nazis, they used that symbol, and you saw what the results were, right? The other one by itself is like I said, sentiment. It's just talk. There's nothing substantial about it, right? So, for example, as we were talking earlier, like, you can say, "Oh, I love you," but then if you go around talking shit about that, or excuse me, talking like trash about that person, that's all sentiment. It's really just fluff, right? Yeah. Whereas if you had that love for the person, and then you actually start to support them and see what they needed, have the hard conversations to be truthful with them, to affect some kind of support or change or realization and growth, or, sacrifice some time for that person, right? Or do something out of the ordinary to see the person, to connect with the person, to love on that person in a substantial way. That's kind of the key. And I've been exploring that concept for a long time, and through the different like teachings and like workshops and stuff like that, I continually see how like the transformative work of things like hardcore leadership, landmarks, some other spiritual things that I've experienced, even meditation practices, 8 limbs of yoga, they all talk about right action, right thought. And I think that was kind of the birthing point for me to start to explore like other traditions.
Yeah. Which I think is similar in a sense to my getting curious and starting to explore everything I could get my hands on, everything I could find out. What do you think? Because were you that curious your whole life, or was there kind of a point where it started to show up and you just got really curious?
Well, I think again another seed that was planted was from my cousin, and he was he was a longtime meditator. He still is, and he took me on a road trip when I graduated from high school, and it was like a political activist trip, basically. I learned how to be an activist with him, and during our camping trips, he taught me how to meditate, and that, like, again, planted a seed for further along in college to kind of seek that out. And it started there, and then doing Shorin Kempo, the martial arts that I was talking about, that kind of sparked more questions. So one, start to spark more questions and being open to things like yoga, right? And other traditions, like I said, it opened it up. And so I think it was kind of like a gradual thing. I'm just thinking, like, I think another thing that really sparked that was, like, there's a book called Be Here Now with Ram Dass. And when I was in a very dark place during college, like, that really kind of, the questions and the words and the art, that really helped to kind of open something up as well. Yeah. And so just running into things like by grace, like, it would just open up more questions and more experiences.
Yeah. So let's see. So meditation, you learned a little more about that. And how has that changed your life, do you feel, compared to, say, if you weren't doing it?
Meditation, I'm like the worst meditator. Like, oh my gosh, yeah. So having a disciplined meditative practice for me is like, I don't know. It's been a struggle. Yeah. There is when Lisa and I had a kid, my wife Lisa, when we had our first child, we actually went to this mindful birthing class, and from that, I started to apply meditation on a active level, like when I'm out in the day, being mindful of my thoughts, being just kind of cognizant of what's going on. And so my meditation was that, it's more of a day-to-day awareness meditation.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, 13 years ago, 14 years ago. And so I would say for me, like, my pathway was not really like having a disciplined practice. It was being aware in the day-to-day. It was a walking meditation, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and different types of meditation. And so it sounds like maybe you're just one of the type that needs the moving active sort of meditation.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm probably being too self-deprecating. I mean, like, I I I have tried different ways, like the Radhaswami Satsang Biyas. There's other meditations, Kashmir Shaivism meditation, Mantak Chia's meditation. I've experimented with different things, and so that's given me insight. But I think the biggest one has been really my path has been like really being involved in communities that were involved in a transformative aspect or an active aspect of community and kind of some traditions rely on transmission, or what the Vedic tradition calls Shaktipat, and that's like a vibrational kind of transmission from the guru to his or her disciples.
Mm-hmm.
And being in the communities, it's almost like you're in a field, right? And sometimes you'll get, if you're receptive enough, it feels like by grace and being in a state of receptivity at any given moment, like something will just hit and blast. And there's this one experience comes to mind. There's an ashram in Emeryville, Oakland, California, and right across from San Francisco. And it was built by this guru Muktananda, and his teacher was Nityananda. And so for some reason, like, I think someone told me how good the scones and chai was at this place. And so I'd go in there all the time. Every time I go in there, like, there's this like feeling, like when you go into a church, there's this feeling in the body, and like things calm down and drop in. I'm like, ooh, I like this feeling. I like the chai. I like the scone. This is great.
Yeah.
And and then I saw the picture of Nityananda, and something happened. It almost like this wave of bliss hit me, and I was in this ecstatic, blissful state.
Yeah.
And I was totally blown away. And that lasted for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, until I got in the freeway and started driving. Then an incident happened where it kind of like took me out of it at the right moment.
Huh.
But it was quite amazing. And so that was my first experience of transmission. And usually in the traditions that I've read about, it's usually directly from a living master or teacher or guru that transmits live. I never thought I can get it from a picture, which just totally blew me away.
That's pretty amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So as a chiropractor,
mm-hmm.
So how long have you been working in chiropractic?
20 years.
20 years.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that you've had some energetic experiences there.
Yeah, I have. There was one experience, and again, this is the community in this ashram that I was talking about. I was working with someone who was a part of that community, and so there's a lineage. So Nityananda, then Muktananda was the person who founded that ashram, and then the person that kind of took over after him, her name was Gudamayi. And I never had a connection to any of those teachers for whatever reason. But the person I was working with did. She was her direct disciple. And so I was working on the table with her, and she had some anxiety about a bunch of things, and she started asking me, and I said, hey, you have a guru, why are you asking me this stuff? Right? Why don't you ask her and like write a letter or something? And she goes, I've been trying to write a letter, trying to almost do something, right? I'm trying to write a letter, and I'm just trying to get it right. And as I was touching her, like I got a transmission from her, and I kept on seeing her guru in my face, and this feeling of like love was there. And I was like, wow, like what's going on here? And as I was touching her back, I just got this transmission. And I asked her, my experience of that guru was like love, this and unconditional. And I said, hey, who is your teacher to? Who's your guru to? Who's Guru Maya to you? And she said, unconditional love. And I says, yeah. Do you think unconditional love cares whether you get the grammar right? And she's like, I don't think so. And so that was like a profound experience, of that transmission through her. And I got a hit of what her teacher's like. And after that day, there's an amazing phenomenon that happened. Like I bike home from, when I had my office in Berkeley, I usually bike home. And so I was biking home, and it's on a very busy street, and it's loud, and everything started to quiet. Like it was a weird phenomenon. The traffic started to just be very super quiet. And I was pedaling home, my pedals started to slow down until I was walking. And then it was like maybe 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. It was, I think, a spring or summer day, so the light was still out. And as I started to slow down, everything slowed down like molasses. And again, another blissful experience, Jeremy. And then almost like these shafts of light would light up plants on my walk home. And these colors would just like come out. It sounds like an acid trip. And I think my brain went through a chemical change when that transmission happened. And so, yes, being a chiropractor, you don't think of these types of experiences, but some of the original chiropractors like D.D. Palmer and B.J. Palmer, D.D., the father of B.J. Palmer, was a magnetic healer, and he dealt in tone and vibration. And he got transmissions too. Not to say I'm like D.D. Palmer, but like he had his own downloads and stuff like that. And there's a whole, I believe, invisible world out there, as you know from your experiences, of how we get opened up to these, and just being in the field and the community has been, and then through grace, just having this experience to open up into these experiences has been just mind-blowing, you know. And then like talking about this right now, I feel okay talking about with you, but out there in the world, like I sound like a crazy man. Right? So I don't talk about that this often. It's not an everyday occurrence that something you talk about a lot.
Right. Well, I interviewed I think he was a qigong master before who talked about a similar experience with his family. He was not allowed to talk about his esoteric experiences with qigong, with the energy he was experiencing in his body, with the visuals that he got of the people that he just would be passing by in the hallway at school. He would just all of a sudden know what happened to their elbow, and he could say something like, "How'd you know?"
Wow, that's a gift.
He had to keep it quiet for a while until, after several years of doing qigong regularly, it was unmistakable, and he just couldn't help but start talking about it some. But the interview with me was a breakthrough for him to be out with it, no matter what the family thinks. And so I was proud of him for that, because that was great. So with this experience, so network spinal, is that more specifically why you might have had this experience? Working more?
Yeah, that was a vehicle through which I had this experience, and I've had many experiences in with that work, with being a practice member or receiving the care and giving the care.
Yeah.
And this is the work of Donald Epstein, and who is a chiropractor, and he, like your qigong teacher, he's one of those people that is a seer, right? And again, when he talked about it, he's talked about this before, but when he talked about it when he was a child, his parents freaked out. Like, what are you saying? You're seeing people's face melt and you feel this energy or love, like love come. What? No, we need to medicate you, right? Or whatever, right? Until he later found out, like, it was a gift and not something to be like hampered down. And so he's full on out with his gifts. And yeah, he teaches this method called network spinal and somato-respiratory integration, and I've been using that with my clients.
Yeah.
And those are the things that actually provide those breakthroughs. And it really, I mean, it sets up the context and kind of like the field for people to open up and to have these experiences and realizations, and allow this connection between two people for something to emerge, right? Like the example that I talked about with this the person I was caring for and her guru, right? Yeah. So it really opens up the realm of energetic possibilities, if you will, and intelligences to move through.
So how could you explain how that works? Because I've had you do work on me as well, and it seems like you're just tuning into that energetic field and maybe connecting, maybe doing something. Could you talk a little more about what happens there to help get that person opened up?
Oh, okay. Well, I think the best way to explain, because there's so much that's still a mystery after doing this for 20 years, Jeremy. And I think the best way to describe it is I think the first thing is to create safety, right, in the situation. And then as we create safety in the body is to create connection. And in so doing, when I work with maybe the first client, connecting the brain, like this part of the brain, the forebrain, to be conscious of different spots, like the spots I touched on your back, to get conscious of those spots really changes the brain chemistry and the way the brain works, and shifts it from fight or flight to more creativity, awareness, rest, rejuvenate. It goes from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it activates the sympathetic part of the nervous system, if you will, and so then the frontal
get out of running on autopilot, right? To where they can be more consciously living their lives in the way they intend. Right?
Yes, exactly. And then as that happens with these access points or spinal gateways, as if you will, like that's what they're technically called under Donald Epstein's models. But these access points that I work with you, if you can imagine like a cone, right, kind of sprouting from that.
Yeah.
And so when you saw me working, I think I was working on someone else too. And when you saw me working, I was not only working with the body, I was working with the energetic field and connecting the intelligence of your field and anchoring that into your body. Uh-huh. Right? There's an intelligence. There's like an innate intelligence energy that, for example, allows our cells to function the way it functions, that keeps us alive, right? There's like a life force there. Yeah. And different traditions have different names for the different parts of their field or their consciousness, astral, causal body, whatever. Uh-huh. It's all the same to me. It's just like having you access that through your spine created that ease and the tension that you're feeling after you had that you bonked your head. I think you bonked your head surfing, right?
The way you slammed the board on top of my head.
That's right. And so when you had that tension pattern, it was locked in. Yeah. And then for some reason your brain was looping that. And so we connected to your energetic intelligence, or like, let's say, the intelligence of your field and your body, your being, and anchored that into your spine, to those access points. And then the rest, I can't explain how that happens. There's an unwinding process actually that happens. Your nervous system starts to go into rest and rejuvenate, so it doesn't hold on to those patterns anymore, and then it can relax the patterns. Uh-huh. Right? And then so with more chronic, like subconscious patterns that are locked into the spine. Through a series of these sessions, they get to actually move through it, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds, what I pictured when you were talking about the cones of energy were like just like the chakras, but maybe the smaller access points are like the nadis.
Yeah, you can think about it as nadis, you
Okay.
know? Yeah. And we're developing these points, because I think it's something novel to the system. I mean, when we work SRI, we're working the front of the bodies and they relate to chakras and all that kind of stuff. But when we work with the spine, they're like, we're developing like new nadis, like a new nadi system, like these little points in the back of the neck, upper back, and in the sacrum and coccyx.
Yeah.
And there's kind of like a protocol to develop these and when to identify when they're ready to be developed. So
Okay. So do you typically work in a series of sessions with people on that?
usually,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. And can you do any of that work remotely?
I can't do the network spinal remotely.
Okay.
I can't.
But
I have to make the contact. You have to make the contact on the skin or on the soft tissue in the spine. But the somatorespiratory integration, which is something different, that could be used remotely because it's a set of breath movement exercises that help to, again, switch the mode of the brain. Right?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, we're running a little short on time. So I want to ask about your surfing accident.
Okay.
Because the ones of us that have had awakenings, I feel we're here to share them, right? For the people that are searching, that are curious, like, is this really all there is to life, or what? Like, come on.
Just a caveat before I share this, I think things are changing and you don't have to have a traumatic experience to really, I just want to put that out there in the context of what I'm about to share, that you don't have to have, I believe, a traumatic experience to kind of get into a different state. You hear stories about that and people having out-of-body experiences or near-death experiences, and that kind of revealed to them something. And so during that surfing accident, I was just learning, and this is, I think, 20 years ago, Jeremy, and I was in Del Mar, and I went by myself. I thought I could handle it, the waves there, and I couldn't. It was brutal, and I was getting tossed around. I was trying to fight the surf and get past the breakers, and eventually I made it out. There's only one other guy. That should have told me something, right? But this one guy, he looked pretty experienced. He said, "Hey, watch out for the outside wave." And I'm like, "What is an outside wave?" I had no idea what he was talking about. And all of a sudden, this wave, like the breakers were usually hitting here. Here's the shore. The waves are breaking here. An outside wave is something that comes away from outside like that, right? It wasn't breaking here. It was out here. So I made it to here, this zone here, past the impact zone. And then this outside wave came and just rocked me. And then I got back up. I kept on struggling. Another outside wave came and hit me in the back of my neck. And next thing I knew, I saw a shadow in the whitewash. And the shadow it looked like a body just tumbling and just getting tossed around. And I was like, oh man, that guy's really going through it. And I didn't even think for a moment, how am I seeing this like shadow there from way beyond, and how do I have the visual perception to see this shadow? I didn't even think about that until it hit me, like maybe I don't know how long it took me to realize that, but then once I realized, hey, that's my body, I was instantly back in my body. And there is this profound sense of bliss, kind of like the bliss that I felt when I had the Shaktipat experience with Nityananda's picture. And there was no thought of the past. There's no thought of the future. There's no worries. There's no regrets. There's nothing. It was just blank. And my body felt so good. I was like, oh. And this quietness that surrounded me was just amazing. And I was like, what is this? And then a little voice said, hey, it's time to go up for some air. And so I was like, oh, I better listen to that voice. I came up. I can see the waves breaking, but they were making no sounds. And my body was limp from the experience. I think maybe lack of oxygen, getting hit so hard, struggling, all that physical efforting. And I was limp. I was caught, right where the waves were breaking. And I was trying to paddle back and I couldn't. My arms were totally just like noodly. And this strange thing happened. I just asked, how am I going to get back to shore? And then right that instant, I turned around. There's a surfer who got on his surfboard and the wave crashed behind him and he just jetted in. And I was like, and you can tell from the story, I wasn't very experienced surfer. I had no business being out there. And then this surfer manifested next to me and
Wow.
And I was like, oh, wow, that's how I get back in. And so that was like an aha, like, wow moment for me. Like I wasn't meant to die at that point. There's something else that I need to do.
Yeah.
In this lifetime, but it didn't hit me till way later, maybe a few years later and I'm still kind of on that journey.
Yeah, you got more work to do in this world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that just opened up a whole new level of experience that I didn't understand.
So, okay, real quick before we're done is I wonder if you could also talk about your heart openings, and then also maybe real quick some of the basics of awakening, and then what sort of work that people could look to you for, come to you for.
Okay, got it. All right, so those are three questions rolled into one. I'll do my best. So the first one, the heartbreak. I had many experiences, but the one that actually opened me up to what that meant for me personally in my life, was that I went to a week-long intensive, and the experience at the end of that intensive was I felt my heart breaking, and I was crying like a baby. And it just, I was sobbing. I felt this pain in my heart. And it felt like when I, like let's say I break up with a girlfriend or something like that. It felt like that, but like intensified, like magnified 10x, 100x, whatever. And I realized, hey, that's my soul calling out to me.
Huh.
Right? That's my soul calling. This is my belief of what that was. It was my soul calling out. There was a yearning of my soul, maybe to be reunited with the source or whatever. Just like this beautiful pain.
Huh.
And, I started asking for it every day after that because it was so beautiful and painful. I'm not a masochist, but anyway, I hate needles. I hate getting shots. I hate the dentist. I'm not a pain seeker. It's just like, it was this beautiful, emotional, energetic, like heart opening.
Huh.
And it was painful. And I started asking for it every day, and it became too intense. I was getting weak at the knees, looking at the cashier, almost just crying, right? And so I asked it to stop. It stopped. And then the second time it happened was with my son. When he was born, my wife had a very long labor with him. It's like 4 hours of pushing.
Wow.
4 hours he was stuck.
Wow.
And she was like passing out in between contractions. And I was like, what is going on? Like, I was worried. And, his head was stuck. Finally, he made it through. His head came up. He looked at me. And again, it felt even more intense than the first heartbreak. And it just almost like this force just kind of broke me open. And I was in tears. And then the nurse was asking me questions. I could hear her. It was just that kind of a phenomenon. It was this beautifully opening phenomenon. And what happened afterwards was, Lisa's hungry. She worked hard. So, after we slept a little bit, I went to Whole Foods, which is down the street from where we were. And I started looking at everybody. And there's this phenomenon of seeing everybody as someone's child. And again, this heart opening happened. I was like, why do we have war? This is a child I'm looking at, even though this is someone's child. What are we doing killing each other, right? It just didn't make any sense. And again, my heart was opening. I don't know how I was functioning, getting the yogurt without crying, looking at everybody, you know, but it was there. It's like that feeling that's there.
Yeah.
And I believe that that heartbreak for me, in my experience, is an opening into the soul, an opening into divine, an opening into something bigger that I think is that I needed in my life to be able to serve more from a place of compassion and like true opening love, right? And like I do believe that that heartbreak is an is a doorway to the divine if you let it.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
Um, Sorry, I got another. Um, so so basics around awakening. You'd mentioned something about that. Do you want to say any more on that at this point?
Basics of awakening.
Yeah.
Help me out here. I just what?
Oh, okay. So I think earlier you'd mentioned something about that there's some typical steps that people can take to kind of begin their awakening process.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I think one of them is to be open and receptive
Hmm.
to what's happening, and one of the things I think is to be really honest with yourself,
Yeah.
right? And part of the, like when I work with clients, it's okay, let's build some safety around the experience. And what is the experience that has been like, I'm never going to go there. I'm never going to feel that experience, and build safety around being able to like touch upon that and moving through it, right? An experience. And this is true for a lot of the transformative and spiritual like traditions I've experienced, is like there's always this going through the fire. Is that and going through the fire or going through the whatever that thing is that we've been resisting, whether
Uh-huh.
it's joy, sadness, grief, whatever that is, the
Yeah.
boogeyman, right?
Right.
And moving through that and experiencing it with every ounce that you have to be able to experience that safely. And some psychologists might be going, "Oh, you shouldn't be experiencing trauma." It's like, I'm not trying to have people experience trauma. I just want, to have the strategies to have safety to open into that experience. And I believe through that experience, things can open up, right? And through that experience, as things open up, energy starts to become available for growth, transformation, development, whatever you will, right? And with network spinal and somatospiratory integration, there's kind of like ways to move through that, right? You kind of get the safety, you get the connection,
Uh-huh.
right? You move through some of those places that you don't want to go to,
Yeah.
right? You pop out the other side, and then now that energy that you used to repress and resist whatever you didn't want to feel can be available now for whatever you want to create.
So would it be safe to say that that's helpful in accelerating the process?
My experience, yes. I know there's probably many other ways to do it. But yeah, in my experience, that's a good way to, I think, accelerate through it.
Less trauma anyway.
Yeah, you don't have to get in an accident to have that.
Uh, well, any any final thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
um, yeah, actually,
Just on waking up and inspiring
yeah.
the next.
Um, as whatever path you use to actually become aware of yourself, I think like really being honest with like what are some of the recurring thought patterns or belief patterns that limit you. I think it's really important to start to become aware of it, and also to not resist the experience of it. The experience should last maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds of whatever that emotion or experience is, and then done. You don't have to like kind of wallow in it,
Yeah.
right? When we wallow in it, we have thought patterns that kind of keep us in there and loop in there.
Right.
So being aware of those loops I think is a key portion to that. And we all have thoughts, and we all could like sit down and just kind of just gently listen to what those are, to reveal something about where we're at in life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is that I think we've both been experiencing a bit recently is getting better at deciphering between uh, spending too long with a particular emotion or not spending enough time with it, and then it kind of getting stuck in the body. But
Yeah.
to really fully experience it so that it doesn't get stored in the body. So we
Yep.
keep our energy free flowing.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Mm-hmm.
Great. All right. So I super appreciate you sharing your experiences. I feel confident that it's so worth sharing because I think that other people have similar experiences or have had that they may not have felt like they could talk with anyone about. And so I feel it's so valuable. So thank you for sharing all that.
You're welcome.
And so how, I guess, quick last, how might people want to work with you? Like what would be the best way for people to maximize the benefit of working with you? What's the secret, the best?
Well, I mean, I have some projects down the line. We're having workshops in San Diego. If you can fly out here, you can contact me through Calendly. We can have a talk, or we can do remote sessions. I'm doing remote sessions now with somato-respiratory integration, and what I'll offer is like a free first session with me, and I guess we can set up a link for that. The other thing I like to offer as a gift is I did an online show about harmony at home, and that's about creating harmony, peace, love, and joy at home in your personal life. And I've gotten experts from different fields, from field of nutrition, medicine, meditation, tapping, all this kind of stuff to help get aligned. And everybody has a different way of accessing, and so I had that available as well. But yes, the first best way is to contact me. We can have a conversation. If you want to experience some of the breath, energetic movement, consciousness work, I'd be happy to offer that for your viewers.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you include some functional medicine work as well, blood tests and stuff?
Oh, yes, I could do that as well. Unless you live in New York, you have to have your own functional medicine doctor, we found out. But yeah, I've been also working with people who want to lose weight healthfully and specifically. And so blood tests are a great way to see what causes inflammation, to get rid of the source of inflammation that's particular to each individual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Track down those particular biomarkers and.
Yeah. They're called immunoglobulins, and so there's a particular one called IgG, and there's tests for that to see what kind of subclinical inflammation pattern or foods cause subclinical inflammation in your system. Yeah. And I did that on myself, and even though I don't need to lose weight, I want to have more energy. And what happened was, when I followed that protocol, I tracked my sleep, and so my deep sleep pattern went from 45 minutes a night to an hour and 15, just by doing that protocol, just by avoiding those foods. And it shifted something in my brain and my body to actually have more deep sleep and more energy. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool stuff. And so I'm open to those discussions as well. So what, basically, connecting, seeing what your path is, and if I can be of service, I'll be of service. If not, I can refer to other practitioners that I've networked with over the years. So yeah, I'm here to serve. So
great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being you, for offering your work and being the amazing person you are.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah, appreciate you. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. It's been earthiswakingUp.com's little interview, and like to talk to you next time. Much love.
All right. Much love. Thank you, Jeremy.